Gaspers once again shows he's the king of momentum cars here on iRacing. And fittingly, momentum is now on his side in the championship. However, he shares the points lead for now, with Arabian's 3 podiums allowing him to hold on with a tie. Brands Hatch might be more well known for this car's cousin, the Formula Ford, but the V should put on just as great of a show as we get ready to watch round 6 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Robert O'Brien. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Brands Hatch sees drivers run their careers from bottom to top with a variety of series it's hosted. Let's head to our track guide to learn more about it. Welcome to Brands Hatch. When popular British racing circuits get listed, this track just to the southeast of London often finds itself near the top. The extensive history of the venue has meant that many famous names in racing have ran laps here. But the stats make it sound deceptively simple, with the Grand Prix and Indy course having 9 and 6 turns respectively. Laps might be short, but they're also fast, and the corners are often a challenge to get right. As you'd expect, that means passing is quite difficult, with most drivers leaning towards sending one up the inside at Druids. You might occasionally see overtakes into the first corner, Paddock Hill Bend, but the blind apex and gigantic drop in elevation make that an errand for only the brave. Many of the corner names pay tribute to famous British drivers from the past decades, such as Hill, Surtees, Sterling, and Clark. In fact, the fame extends beyond the drivers, but to the cars as well, with this place seeing everything from Formula One to Formula Ford, touring cars, GT cars, motorcycles, and even rallycross. It's a gorgeously scenic venue where lush trees envelop the back half of the course, while the front half is mostly encapsulated inside a natural amphitheater. This makes it extremely popular with race fans who can see a majority of the circuit from many seating positions. With a great location near a major metropolitan hub, a spectator-friendly layout, and an experience that challenges drivers, you can see why this place remains abuzz with racing to this day. Rob, I was talking about how the Formula Fords usually race here, so the V on this Indy version of the track really does feel right at home.
It does, yeah. It's a very tiny portion of Brands Hatch they go around, so instead of taking the all sweeping left of Surtees down towards Pilgrim's Drop, they just take a sweeping cut over to Clark Curve, and it's a tiny track compared to 6 turns, 1.2 miles, or just under 2 kilometers. In Kent, England. It's a very nice layout. The reason why it's called Indy is because, well, Indy raced here in the 70s. I don't know how. They were probably praying a lot. Just, can I get around the one more lap, please?
Yeah, oh my goodness, it looked scary seeing them try and zip around this thing, and they did very short laps. Now, before we get to the racing itself, let's talk about our sponsor, Ringfree. A unified VoIP for your essential business. Find out more at ringfree.com. Choose connection. And as we take a look as well at our championship, I already mentioned it, that up at the top, we have an actual tie on points between Arabian and Gaspers. From there on down, it is a whole win's worth away from second place, which is Rasky, actually, as Gasper's not able to beat 2 people here. Or behind them, as well as Aaron Vagley. And then you go down to Greg Stefani for 5th in that Spec 1 championship. Rob, what about the Spec 2 race?
In the Spec 2, this is actually a good bit closer. We have Thomas Arenders sitting on top, and 62 points behind is Johan Batenga. And then second to third, Evan Wood is only 11 points behind Batenga. Flavio Andolo, after a few good results, has put himself into 4th, and James Hodgson, he's still there. He just needs to convert into points really at this stage. The main thing is that Johan Batenga, while he is in second and he's had a few good results, he needs to be careful.
Certainly does. And we also have the Masters class here, and up at the top of that, Antonio Reese currently leading the way with Tom Gradwell in second. You've got Mike Taylor P3, followed by Bately and Kraus. So things remain incredibly tight in that one. And what about our race details here, Rob?
Well, the track itself is going to be a challenge, but what's going to be an even bigger challenge is the fuel stops. It's going to be one fuel stop over a 40-minute race. Open setups, should be shared setups, really. They all like to share the setups between each other, so there's no ambiguities or keeping secrets. It's always very nice to see that kind of thing in a league, especially for the weekend warriors. What they're going to have to deal with is that, as I said, the pit stop. That pit's a very, very sharp right-hander coming on Clark, so they need to be, if they're going to take the pits, they're going to be very careful, because cutting in traffic can lose you time and it can cause accidents.
Certainly can. It's one where the drivers will need to watch out when they get through that pit cycle. Now, as we watch them in the warm-up, they again don't have very much track to work their way around. Even in these lesser powered cars, we're looking at sub 1 minute circuits around this place for that 40-minute race. So could we see quite a bit of variety in pit strategy with so many different laps that could fit within that pit window? And the other thing I wonder about those pit stops, Rob, is will that offer up the best times to try and make an overtake, since there's really not many good ones on this circuit?
Yeah, you can think of it as like a Tsukuba for the English countryside. It's not very easy to pass here. Your best chances really are going through paddock and the druids. The sweeping right-hander is going to put people out of sorts, so you could pass on the inside if you're very, very clever. But the real issue comes down to when you have the exit on Clark onto the start-finish straight. It's not a straight, it's more like a banked curve that continues onwards up until paddock. It's going to be difficult to try and keep it all together. We're going to see, I think, 2 or 3, instances where they are going to try to take it 3 wide, but it's going to be 2x2s, really, for the entirety of the race. Especially given the fact that... Sorry, go ahead.
And we'll have to step away for a brief moment here as we'll deal with a few technical issues, but stay with GSRC. We'll be back on the air.